Most people carry a heavy burden they don't even recognize. It is the weight of constant comparison. Every time they look at someone else's achievements, they forget their own. Every time they measure their value against the success of another, they shrink their own progress. This silent habit destroys more dreams than failure ever could. Comparison blinds you to your own journey. It convinces you that no matter how far you've come, it will never be enough, because someone else has gone further. But that thinking is a trap, and it is a trap designed to keep you weak. The truth is simple. The only worthy measurement is against the person you were yesterday. That is the real opponent, the real rival, and the real test of growth. When you stand in front of the mirror, your question should not be, "Am I better than them?" but "Am I stronger than I was before?" Because no one else has lived your battles, carried your struggles, or walked in your shoes. No one else has faced your storms or survived your nights of doubt. And that makes your progress incomparable. When you compare yourself to others, you erase the meaning of your own victories. You forget the nights you stayed awake fighting against fear. You forget the mornings when getting out of bed felt impossible, but you still did it. You forget the moments when quitting seemed easier, but you chose to continue. Those small, unseen triumphs may not look like much to the outside world, but they carry the weight of transformation. Each one is a sign that you are becoming something greater than you once were. Comparison robs you of joy because it tells you your story is not enough. But your story is everything, your scars, your struggles, your progress. They are the proof that you are alive, that you are moving, that you are not the same as you were before. And that matters more than any outside scoreboard. The truth is, the distance you have covered is far more important than the distance left ahead. You see, when you focus on how far others have gone, you feel small. But when you focus on how far you've come, you feel strong. That shift in focus is the difference between discouragement and motivation. It is the difference between giving up and pressing forward. Because the moment you recognize that you are not where you used to be, you discover a hidden power inside of you. It is the power of self-belief. Think of the times you doubted yourself, the times you believed you had no strength, and yet here you are. Every hardship you thought would break you has only shaped you. Every challenge you believed was impossible has already been conquered. You stand today as proof that you are greater than your struggles, and yet comparison tries to erase that truth. It whispers lies that you are behind, that you are not enough, that you are losing. But you are not losing. You are learning, you are growing, you are moving forward in your own way. Stop letting comparison rob you of your fire. Stop measuring your worth by someone else's timeline. Their success does not diminish yours. Their victories do not cancel out your progress. The only question that matters is this: have you moved forward from who you used to be? If the answer is yes, then you are winning. Your journey is not about keeping up. It is about rising up. It is about becoming unrecognizable to the person you once were. Every step you take away from your old self is a triumph. And if you can look back and see even the smallest distance covered, then you already hold the proof that you are capable of covering more. The climb ahead is not meant to discourage you. It is meant to remind you that if you've come this far, there is nothing stopping you from going further. Most people measure their life by how much more is left to climb, and that is why they often feel exhausted before the journey has even begun. When you look only at the distance still ahead, the road feels endless, and the weight of that thought crushes your spirit. But perspective changes everything. Perspective turns a mountain into a series of steps. Perspective transforms despair into gratitude. When you shift your focus from what you lack to what you have already gained, your entire state of mind changes. What once felt impossible now feels achievable, not because the path is shorter, but because you finally recognize the strength that carried you this far. Success is not about the peak, it is about the climb. The mountaintop may be the destination, but the climb is the proof that you are alive, moving, and capable. Too many people waste their days staring at the summit, paralyzed by how high it looks. They forget to honor the fact that they are no longer standing at the bottom. They have already risen, step after step, against every doubt and obstacle. That is what perspective does. It reminds you that progress is already happening, that you are not the same person who once stood helpless at the base of the challenge. When you allow yourself to see how far you have come, you build a foundation of confidence. Gratitude begins to take root, and gratitude is the seed of resilience. Confidence is not built in one sudden victory. It is built by acknowledging every small step that brought you here. And when you reflect on those steps, you realize something powerful. You were capable long before you believed it. The journey did not just shape your outcome, it shaped your identity. Perspective gives you that clarity. It shows you that success is not just a finish line you cross one day. It is the transformation that happens along the way. Imagine walking a path in the dark. Every few feet you light a small candle. At first the darkness swallows you, and all you can think about is how far you have left to walk. But then you stop and look back. Behind you is a trail of glowing candles, each one proof of the steps you've already taken. Suddenly you are no longer lost, you are guided by your own light. This is the power of perspective. When you turn your focus backwards, not to live in the past, but to acknowledge the distance covered, you ignite the strength to move forward. There is a deep psychological truth in this shift. When the human mind focuses only on the future, it feels overwhelmed. The gap between where you are and where you want to be looks enormous. But when the mind focuses on the past with gratitude, it feels empowered. It sees evidence of victories, proof of growth, undeniable signs of change. That sense of proof builds motivation, and motivation builds momentum. This is why perspective is everything. The climb ahead doesn't shrink, but you grow taller in your own eyes. And when you grow taller, the mountain no longer looks so intimidating. The most dangerous lie you can tell yourself is that you have not made progress. Because the truth is you have. Every step you've taken has built strength. Every challenge endured has built resilience. You may not see it when you're focused on the peak, but when you take a moment to turn around, you realize how far you've already risen. That realization can fuel you more than any external reward. The power of perspective is not about ignoring the journey ahead. It is about respecting the ground you've already conquered, so that you never again doubt your ability to conquer more. Every step you take is proof of victory, whether or not it feels like it in the moment. Too often, people dismiss their own progress because it does not look dramatic enough. They believe only massive leaps count as success, and because of that belief, they ignore the quiet triumphs that are shaping their lives every single day. But the truth is, progress is rarely loud, it is not always obvious, it does not always come with applause or recognition. Sometimes the greatest victories are invisible to everyone except the one who chose to keep moving when it would have been easier to stop. Think about what it means to take a single step forward. It may seem small, but a step means you refused to stay still. A step means you resisted the temptation of giving up. A step means you believed, even in the smallest way, that tomorrow could be better than today. That is not weakness. That is strength in its purest form, because the journey to transformation is not built by giant leaps. It is built by thousands of small, deliberate choices to keep moving. Each step is victory because it carries the weight of persistence. Every step also represents defiance. It is defiance against fear, against doubt, against the voice in your head that tells you to quit. Every time you take another step, you silence that voice a little more. And the more steps you take, the weaker that voice becomes. Victory is not waiting for the moment when the doubt completely disappears. Victory is walking forward even while the doubt screams. The step itself is proof that you are stronger than your fear. The mistake many people make is dismissing their steps because they are not at the finish line yet. They tell themselves, I'm not there, so I'm not winning. But that is a lie. The finish line is not the only moment that matters. The truth is, every step is its own finish line. Every step is its own declaration of success. You may not be at the end, but you are no longer where you started. And that gap between your beginning and where you stand now is already a victory. When you begin to honor each step as a triumph, something powerful happens inside you. Your motivation shifts from desperation to gratitude. You no longer obsess over how far there is to go because you start to recognize the strength it took to get here. That recognition creates energy. It fuels persistence. It builds confidence that no matter how long the road may be, you will keep walking it because you have already proven that you can. The truth is, no victory is ever wasted. Even the smallest step creates momentum, and momentum is the hidden force behind every great success. The first step might feel lonely, the second might feel uncertain, but with each new step, the ground beneath you changes. You gain clarity, direction, and strength. What once felt impossible begins to feel natural. That is why every step must be celebrated. It is not just progress, it is transformation. So do not overlook the ground you cover each day. Do not belittle the small wins. They are not small at all. They are the foundation of everything you are building. Every step forward is proof that you are still in the fight, that you are still willing to grow, that you are not finished becoming who you are meant to be. And that in itself is a victory worth more than the loudest applause. There is a dangerous trap that swallows countless dreamers, the trap of endless goals. Goals themselves are powerful. They give direction, they give purpose. They create the fire that pushes us forward. But goals become poison when they are chased without reflection. When a person runs from one milestone to the next without ever pausing to acknowledge their own progress, they turn ambition into self-punishment. They start to believe that nothing is ever enough. No matter what they accomplish, their eyes are fixed only on the distance left ahead. That mindset robs them of joy and keeps them chained to dissatisfaction. Imagine someone who reaches a goal they once thought was impossible. Instead of stopping to celebrate, they immediately set a new, higher target. They climb a mountain they once believed was too high, yet the moment they reach the peak, they refuse to look around and breathe in the view. They only stare at the next mountain, feeling smaller than before. This is how people burn out. This is how they turn their victories into chains. They refuse to honor the progress already made, and as a result, they never feel the satisfaction of winning. Ambition without reflection becomes an endless chase. It convinces you that happiness lies in the future, that success is something you can never fully hold because the moment you get close, it moves further away. But success is not hiding in the distance. It is already in the steps you've taken. Reflection is the bridge between ambition and fulfillment. Without it, even the greatest achievements will feel empty. You will always be running, but you will never feel like you are arriving. The secret is balance. Set the goals, chase them with all your strength, but along the way, stop to honor what you've already done. Let yourself feel the pride of progress. Let yourself recognize that the road behind you is filled with proof of your growth. That recognition does not make you lazy, it makes you stronger. It fuels you with gratitude, and gratitude multiplies resilience. When you pause to celebrate your victories, you build the energy to keep climbing toward the next. So beware of the trap of endless goals. Ambition without gratitude is emptiness, but ambition with gratitude is unstoppable. True power comes when you can say, I honor how far I've come, and because of that, I know I have the strength to go even further. There is something powerful about remembering where you started. Too often, people are so focused on how far they still have to go that they forget just how far they've already come. They forget the pain of their starting point, the confusion, the weakness, the doubt. They forget that once upon a time, the place they stand today was only a dream, something they weren't sure they could reach. Remembering where you started gives you perspective, and perspective gives you pride. It is the proof that transformation is not only possible, it is already happening inside you. Think about the earliest version of yourself, the one who was lost, broken, or uncertain. Maybe that version of you struggled to believe in a better future. Maybe that version of you was afraid, doubting every step, unsure of what to do next. But look at yourself now. You are not that person anymore. You have grown, you have fought, you have endured storms you once thought would break you. You stand today stronger, wiser, and more resilient than the person you once were. That is not an accident, that is victory. Remembering where you started does more than just inspire pride. It builds confidence for the road ahead. Because if you could make it this far through all the obstacles and failures, what makes you think you cannot go further? The distance behind you is evidence. It is proof that you can survive the impossible. It is proof that you can carry yourself through uncertainty and still rise. The more you remember your beginnings, the more courage you have for the future. It is easy to forget this truth when you are only staring forward. The journey ahead always looks overwhelming. The finish line always feels far away. But the moment you pause and look back, you realize something important. You have already covered more ground than you ever thought possible. And if you could do that, there is no limit to what you can do next. So never ignore your beginnings. Never forget the version of yourself who prayed to be where you are today. When you remember where you started, you carry a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude fuels determination. Gratitude keeps you moving. It reminds you that progress is real, that you are capable, and that the best proof of future success is the distance you've already traveled. Growth is often invisible in the moment. Day by day, nothing seems to change. You wake up, repeat your routines, face the same struggles, and sometimes you wonder if any of it is actually making a difference. This is why so many people give up. They mistake the silence of slow progress for failure. But the truth is, growth hides itself while it is happening. Like the seed beneath the soil, transformation works in silence, unseen by the eye, until one day it breaks through with undeniable strength. The problem is that most people stop watering the seed before it has a chance to show results. They think nothing is happening, when in reality, everything is happening beneath the surface. This is why looking back is so powerful. The daily changes may be invisible, but when you pause to reflect on months or years, you suddenly see how far you have come. The struggles that once crushed you no longer carry the same weight. The challenges that once seemed impossible are now behind you. The fears that once dictated your choices have already been silenced. Growth reveals itself only when you compare who you are today with who you once were. That is when you realize that you are no longer the same person. You are stronger, wiser, and more resilient. Think of how you once handled obstacles. Maybe you panicked, maybe you ran, maybe you doubted yourself endlessly. Now look at yourself. You may still feel fear, but you face it differently. You move forward in spite of it. That is invisible growth turning into visible strength. The change happens slowly, almost quietly, but when you look back, the difference is undeniable. This is why you must trust the process, even when you cannot see the results. The work is never wasted. Every effort, every repetition, every choice adds up to something greater than you can see in the present moment. The danger comes when you forget to look back. When you fail to pause and acknowledge your evolution, you trick yourself into believing you are stagnant. And when you believe you are stagnant, you lose motivation. But the truth is, you are always growing. You are always shaping yourself. Every battle fought, even the ones you lost, carved strength into you. Even failure has been molding you, teaching you, preparing you. None of it was in vain. But you only see this truth when you reflect on the road you've already traveled. So understand this. Growth does not announce itself in the moment. It does not come with fanfare. It reveals itself only when you have the courage to stop, to look back, and to realize that you are no longer who you once were. And once you see that, your faith in your own progress deepens. You stop doubting whether you are capable because you hold the proof in your own transformation. Growth may be invisible, but it is never absent. There is a serious danger in neglecting progress, in ignoring the victories you've already achieved. When you do not acknowledge your progress, discouragement becomes your constant companion. You start believing that all your efforts are meaningless, that no matter how hard you work, you remain the same. And when that thought takes root, it becomes easy to quit. Why continue walking if you believe the road leads nowhere? This is how so many people abandon their dreams, not because they lacked ability, but because they failed to see the proof of their own growth. Neglecting progress blinds you to your own strength. You forget the storms you have survived. You forget the battles you have already won. You forget that at one point you were not even capable of what you are doing today. That forgetfulness is dangerous because it convinces you that you are weaker than you really are. It convinces you that you cannot handle the next challenge, and once you accept that lie, your future victories slip away before you even try. But the truth is, every success you've ever had, no matter how small, is evidence of your power. You may not have reached your ultimate destination yet, but you have already covered ground that once seemed impossible. To neglect this truth is to deny yourself the confidence that would keep you moving forward. Acknowledging progress is not arrogance, it is fuel. It is the reminder that you are capable, and capability multiplies when it is remembered. Think about how the mind works. When it recognizes past progress, it releases belief. That belief generates energy. That energy drives persistence. But when the mind neglects progress, it falls into hopelessness. Hopelessness drains energy, and without energy, persistence dies. This is why so many people fail. They starve themselves of their own victories. They never pause to remember what they've already overcome. They rob themselves of the one thing that could keep them strong, proof. So never underestimate the importance of acknowledging your progress. It is not about living in the past. It is about using the past as evidence for the future. When you see the distance you've already covered, you no longer question whether you can go further. You know you can. Neglecting progress kills persistence, but remembering progress gives birth to unstoppable momentum. The choice is yours, to blind yourself to your strength, or to let your past victories light the fire that carries you forward. Progress does more than move you forward. It reshapes who you are at the core. Every victory, every lesson, every struggle endured adds another layer to your identity. You are not simply accomplishing tasks, you are building a self. Too many people believe identity is fixed, that they are forever chained to who they once were, but the truth is, progress writes a new story inside you. Every single step changes how you see yourself, how you carry yourself, and how you believe in yourself. Each step you take tells your mind, I am capable, I am persistent, I am stronger than I was before. That is how progress builds identity. Think of the times you held on when giving up would have been easier. At first, those moments felt insignificant. You may have thought it's just one small win, but stacked together, those wins created the foundation of your character. Every disciplined choice you made, every temptation you resisted, every challenge you faced, even when no one was watching, was building you. Progress was shaping your self-respect, and self-respect is one of the strongest forces in human life. When you respect yourself for what you have overcome, you no longer need validation from the world. You walk with quiet power because you know your own story. This is why acknowledging progress is essential. Without it, you fail to see the new identity you've been creating. You remain blind to your own transformation, clinging to outdated versions of yourself. But when you stop to recognize how far you've come, you realize you are not who you used to be. You are not the weak version you once believed you were. You have scars, but those scars are proof of battles survived. You have failures, but those failures are proof of lessons learned. Every piece of your past has carved out a stronger identity, and the deeper truth is this: the world does not believe in those who do not believe in themselves. Your progress builds that belief. It turns hesitation into confidence. It takes a person who once doubted and transforms them into someone who knows. And that shift in identity is the very thing that attracts new opportunities, new victories, and new strength. Who you are becoming is far greater than who you were, and progress is the tool carving that identity. So never underestimate the power of progress. It is not just about reaching goals. It is about becoming the kind of person who cannot be denied. The victories you hold within you become the definition of who you are. And when you build an identity rooted in growth, there is no force strong enough to stop you. Progress does more than shape your identity. It creates momentum, and momentum is one of the most powerful forces you can ever harness. At first, progress feels slow. Every step feels like a battle, but once enough steps are taken, something shifts. The effort begins to feed itself. The energy you once had to fight for begins to flow naturally. This is momentum, and it is the secret behind unstoppable progress. The reason momentum is so powerful is because it carries you further than motivation ever could. Motivation comes and goes, but momentum, once created, keeps pushing you forward even on the days when you don't feel like moving. Momentum begins when you acknowledge your progress. When you pause and reflect on how far you've come, you ignite gratitude. Gratitude produces energy. That energy fuels persistence, and persistence creates momentum. It's a cycle that builds on itself. The more you recognize progress, the stronger the momentum becomes. The stronger the momentum, the easier it is to keep going. That is why some people seem unstoppable. It's not because they never struggle. It's because their momentum carries them even when their feelings try to hold them back. Think about how difficult it is to push something heavy at first. The first few pushes take everything you have. But once it begins to roll, the same weight moves with less effort. That is progress turning into momentum. At first, your steps feel exhausting, but as you keep going, you start to feel lighter, faster, stronger. The road does not change, you change, and the energy you create through persistence begins to carry you forward. The danger is forgetting to see your momentum. If you ignore your progress, you stop fueling the energy that keeps you moving. You allow doubt to creep in, and doubt acts like friction. It slows everything down. But when you keep your focus on the victories you've already stacked, you see your own momentum clearly. You begin to trust it. You begin to ride it. And that trust keeps you moving even when you don't have all the answers, even when the road ahead looks uncertain. Momentum is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Dreams require motivation, but achievements require momentum. And you already have it within you. Every step you've taken has been building it. Every victory has been stacking it. The question is whether you will acknowledge it or ignore it. Because the moment you recognize your momentum, you stop doubting whether you can make it. You simply keep moving, and movement itself carries you closer to everything you seek. Every step you take forward carries within it the quiet proof that you are stronger than the weight that tried to hold you back. You may not see it at first glance because progress rarely shouts, it whispers. It shows itself in the moments you no longer break down over things that once crushed you, in the way you now stand taller where before you bent under pressure. The mind always tries to drag you toward the illusion of lack, making you count everything you do not yet have, but strength lies in resisting that pull. You do not need to be at the peak to recognize your growth. You only need to pause, look back, and see the distance between where you began and where you now stand. Each scar tells a story of resilience. Each obstacle conquered marks the territory of your personal expansion. Even if you feel as though the progress is slow, remember that a seed does not become a tree overnight. But in the silence of growth, roots stretch deeper, unseen, giving birth to unshakable strength. The same is true for you. The invisible victories you have collected are far greater than the visible results you may crave. Every time you chose discipline over distraction, courage over comfort, or persistence over quitting, you moved forward. That forward motion, no matter how small, compounds into a transformation that is impossible to deny. And when the mind tempts you to despair because the summit seems distant, remind yourself that you are not standing where you once were. The old you would have broken, but you did not. The old you would have quit, but you endured. That is progress. That is proof, and that is the very fire you must fan, because the journey is not about racing against anyone else. It is about refusing to stand still in the prison of who you used to be. The world may overlook your quiet victories, but you carry the weight of the battles you fought in silence. You know the nights you stayed awake, holding on when giving up would have been easier. That knowledge is your wealth. That progress is your proof. Never diminish it by measuring it against another's timeline. Measure only against your own. And when you do, you will see that you have already come further than you ever thought possible. The truth about progress is that it is not measured in giant leaps, but in countless small steps that demand courage in silence. Too many people destroy their spirit by staring at how far away the destination still appears, forgetting that the distance already traveled is itself a miracle. Every habit you broke, every toxic voice you silenced, every limit you refused to accept, those are triumphs. They may not have earned applause, but they rewrote your story, and the longer you dwell on what is missing, the more you starve your confidence. Gratitude is the cure, for gratitude reminds you of what you have already built. Gratitude shifts the mind from lack to abundance, from impatience to trust. It whispers, look at the walls you tore down. Look at the strength you created from nothing. Look at how far you've come. And when that truth sinks deep into your bones, It unlocks an energy that nothing external can replace. Because when you truly see how far you've come, doubt begins to fade, fear begins to weaken, and faith begins to grow. It is faith in yourself, faith in the process, faith that if you have survived the storms of yesterday, you will endure the storms of tomorrow. That perspective will carry you through any uncertainty because you are no longer chasing worth. You are building upon it. The mountain of challenges that once seemed insurmountable is now behind you, proof that you are not fragile but unbreakable. And the more you acknowledge this truth, the stronger your spirit becomes. The world cannot take away from you what you have already conquered, and it cannot deny the distance you have already traveled. Let that realization breathe power into your lungs. Let it remind you that even if the future is unclear, the past has already declared you victorious in ways you may have forgotten. The path is not about perfection, it is about direction, and as long as you are still moving, still growing, still becoming, you are winning. Never let comparison rob you of that truth. You are not behind, you are not late. You are right where you are meant to be, because the journey is molding you into the very person who will one day look back and say, every struggle was worth it. That is the essence of progress. That is the meaning of focus, and that is why the only question worth asking is not, how far do I still have to go, but how far have I already come? When you measure yourself only by how much further you need to go, you create a prison of dissatisfaction, a cage where nothing is ever enough. You can climb mountains and still feel like you are stuck at the bottom if your eyes never glance back at the path you've already conquered. The truth is, growth is never about reaching an end point. It is about the endless unfolding of who you are becoming. You are not the same person you once were. You carry wisdom you did not have, patience you had to earn, strength you had to build, scars that taught you resilience, and victories that reshaped your character. That is not small, that is monumental. The danger of focusing only on the gap is that it blinds you to the miracle of the gain. You have already outgrown versions of yourself that once held you back. You have overcome fears that used to paralyze you. You have navigated storms that once threatened to destroy you. And yet, because progress often hides itself in subtlety, you might miss it unless you pause and truly reflect. The power of reflection is that it shifts your mind from anxiety about the future to pride in the present. It grounds you in truth, and the truth is this: you are not behind, you are advancing, you are evolving. The moment you stop to honor how far you've come, you ignite within yourself a fire that burns away self-doubt. That fire is essential because the journey is not about speed but about endurance. Endurance is built when you remind yourself of all the times you thought you would break but didn't. Endurance is strengthened when you realize the old you could never have survived what you just did. Endurance is what keeps you alive when everything else tells you to quit. This is why the focus must shift. Stop staring at the unfinished climb. Start appreciating the summit you have already reached. That perspective does not weaken ambition, it strengthens it. It fuels your spirit with the kind of confidence that cannot be shaken by setbacks, because you no longer walk forward with fear, you walk forward with proof. Proof that progress is real, proof that growth is happening, proof that you are already far ahead of the version of yourself who once began. And if you have come this far, what could possibly stop you from going further? The mind is a battlefield, and on that battlefield, the loudest enemy is comparison. Comparison convinces you that your victories are meaningless because they are not as large, not as fast, not as glamorous as someone else's. It blinds you to the fact that success is not a race. It is a journey sculpted uniquely for you. Your pace, your timing, your struggles, and your triumphs belong to you alone. To compare is to abandon your truth and chase an illusion. You cannot measure the worth of your journey with someone else's ruler. You cannot diminish the depth of your transformation simply because another person's looks different. When you focus only on how far you still have to go, you lose sight of the miracle of where you stand now. And the greatest tragedy of that blindness is not the loss of joy. It is the loss of power, because every acknowledgement of progress is fuel, and every denial of progress is poison. The moment you recognize your own growth, energy floods your spirit, confidence grows, vision sharpens. But the moment you belittle it, doubt creeps in and weakens your stride. That is why you must silence comparison. Your only rival is the person you used to be. Look back at that version. See the hesitation that once ruled you, the fear that once controlled you, the chains that once bound you. Now look at yourself today. Are you freer? Are you stronger? Are you wiser? If the answer is yes, and it is, then you have already succeeded beyond measure. Progress does not require perfection. It requires persistence. It requires courage to rise again after you fall, faith to keep walking even when the destination is hidden, and strength to keep growing even when no one notices. You do not need validation to prove your worth. You do not need comparison to define your growth. All you need is honesty with yourself, the courage to admit that you are not where you were, and the fire to keep moving forward. That is the real secret. Focusing on how far you've come transforms not only how you see yourself, but how you carry yourself into the future. It gives you the kind of unshakable resolve that no criticism, no failure, and no delay can take away. Progress is a mirror, but only if you dare to look into it with honesty instead of judgment. Too often, people avoid reflection because they fear it will expose how much further they have to go. But reflection is not meant to highlight the unfinished road. It is meant to honor the ground already won. Imagine the countless choices that shaped who you are right now. The mornings you rose when your body screamed to stay in bed. The moments you stood in the face of fear and refused to bow. The decisions to endure discipline rather than surrender to distraction. Each choice left a mark, subtle but permanent, carving strength into your character. That is not invisible, it is transformation in motion. Yet, the problem is not that progress doesn't exist. The problem is that most fail to acknowledge it. They walk forward blind to their own victories because they are hypnotized by the distance left ahead. But if you take a moment to reflect, you realize something extraordinary. The distance you've already covered was once a dream. You are living today in spaces that yesterday's version of you only imagined. You are carrying wisdom you once begged for. You are standing on a foundation built from pain, struggle, resilience, and perseverance. To overlook that is to dishonor your own journey. True strength begins when you recognize that your progress is real, and when you let that recognition sink deep into your mind, it shifts everything. It transforms hesitation into confidence, fatigue into endurance, and doubt into determination. Reflection is not about self-praise, it is about fuel. It is about feeding the fire of your future with the proof of your past. Every step forward becomes lighter when you realize how many heavy steps you have already taken. The road is long, yes, but the part of the road behind you is already yours. You claimed it. You walked it. You conquered it. That truth alone should be enough to silence the whispers that tell you that you are not enough, that you are too far behind, that you are failing. Because the evidence screams louder than the lies, and the evidence is this: you have come far, farther than you thought you would, farther than the doubters believed you could, and the road ahead, though uncertain, cannot erase the victories already written in your story. The essence of strength lies not in what remains undone, but in what has already been overcome. Every person who succeeds does so not by obsessing over the mountain still in front of them, but by remembering the valleys they already crossed. That remembrance gives them the courage to keep climbing. If you only ever focus on the peak, the climb will crush you. But if you remind yourself of how many steps you've already taken, the climb becomes bearable, even empowering. This is the psychology of progress. It builds confidence not in leaps, but in layers. Confidence grows each time you acknowledge that you did not quit, that you endured, that you rose again after every fall. And the more you acknowledge it, the more powerful you become. But here is the danger. When you ignore your progress, you rob yourself of that power. You allow doubt to take root, whispering lies about your worth. Doubt convinces you that you are weak, when in reality, you are stronger than you have ever been. Doubt convinces you that you are far behind, when in reality, you are further ahead than you've ever been in your life. The only way to silence doubt is to feed yourself truth, and truth is born from reflection. Look at the person you were a year ago, a month ago, even a week ago. See how much has changed. See how much has shifted. Even if the changes are small, they matter. Small steps compound into massive transformations over time. That is how empires are built, how habits are forged, how lives are rewritten, not through giant leaps, but through steady, unrelenting persistence. You are living proof of this. You have already transformed in ways you once thought impossible, and if you have come this far, you have every reason to believe you can go further. That belief is what carries you when the road feels endless. That belief is what keeps you moving when the weight feels unbearable. And that belief only grows when you shift your focus from how far. You still have to go to how far you've already come. Because progress is not just about reaching a goal, it is about becoming the person capable of reaching it. And that becoming is already happening right now in you.